One of the worst losses of the DeMeco Ryans era, another meltdown, another failure to appear by the offense in the second half. Texans fall to 6-4. They maintain their lead in the AFC South, but when it comes to this team being a legitimate contender, there is reasonable doubt. Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. Let's just start right off the top. Your overall thoughts, your overall analysis on the Texans falling to the Lions on Sunday Night Football.
What should have been a hallmark victory under DeMeco Ryans turned into a hallmark defeat under DeMeco Ryans. Like, this should have been one of the games that you point to in the tenure of DeMeco Ryans as the head coach, and you should have been able to say, man, look at that team. Backs against the wall, 3 weeks of really bad offensive line play. They finally made some changes. They have had some really bad second halves, and they came out of the gate firing, had an incredible first half, and then you're supposed to be able to say, and then they kept it up in the second half and finished off one of the best teams in the NFL. But nope, they did the exact same thing that they've done multiple times throughout the past month plus of football, whereas they came out of halftime absolutely flat, totally baffled by the opponent's adjustments on defense, and then their defense didn't have enough to close it out there at the end. And it became a hallmark collapse of the DeMeco Ryans era. Just a putrid second half of football from the offense. The defense, DeMeco Ryans was critical of them down the stretch, but my goodness, they were on the field constantly. The Lions actually made adjustments at halftime. To go out there, Landry, and score 0 points in the second half, to not be able to put a touchdown on the board in the second half for nearly a month now, that's disgusting. That's disgusting, and it's terrible football, and they've got to look at everything that they do from an operations standpoint once the first half ends and change as much as they can, because this has been a constant issue now over the course of the season. They haven't scored a second half touchdown since the New England Patriots game. They even had issue scoring in the second half against Buffalo and other teams this season before that Patriots game. It's pathetic, and they absolutely just threw up all over themselves in the second half, ruining what should have been an incredible victory for this organization.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things to it when it comes to the second half offense. I think we need to start really looking at Bobby Slowick and really just the overall ability for him to make adjustments and the ability for him to actually feel stuff out. There were a couple of things that Bobby Slowick did yesterday that are just unfathomable, really, and they just kind of show a lack of pulse of what's going on. There were two things that I point to when it comes to the Texans yesterday. And again, second half offense, the Texans have not scored a touchdown in the second half since week 6. And that is as bad as it possibly gets. And does Nico Collins make that better? Yes. But you shouldn't be that player dependent if you're a football coach. You shouldn't be that dependent. Like, obviously Nico Collins can make a lot better and you can see a completely different offense, but there's teams all over the league that are without players. Hell, the defense was without Will Anderson yesterday, and they first forced Jared Goff to throw more interceptions than he'd thrown all season long. So yeah, obviously Nico Collins makes it better, but you shouldn't just be as bad as they are in the second half because of that. But there were two things that Bobby Slowick did yesterday that really kind of were really troubling to me. One of them was on 3rd and 10, they decided to run the ball and just settle for a really long field goal, which I don't know what he was thinking. They'd actually protected pretty good on 3rd down up to that point. I think they'd converted a 3rd and 10 and a 3rd and 16, and he just decided to run it and accept the 50-plus yard field goal from Kaimi Fairbairn. That was one thing. And by the way, this is on the aftermath of when the offensive line couldn't pass block. He's functioning as if they can, and they're getting sacked out of field goal range multiple times. So that, to me, kind of showed a lack of feel and a lack of understanding. Then there was the end of the second half, and this is after the Green Bay disaster, and we all remember what happened there. We don't have to rehash what happened at the Green Bay, but it was just pathetic what happened against Green Bay. But there's 2 minutes and about 15 seconds left. You can snap the ball with about 2:05, and the clock's going to stop no matter what. Where you're sitting, it's damn near a 60-yard field goal once again. And even if you make that 60-yard field goal, Detroit's getting the ball back. Their offense is grooving. There's no Kamari Lassiter. And I think Collinsworth at one point even said, this is basically the game, because if you don't get this and you miss the field goal, you're giving Detroit the ball back. They run the ball on second down. And that is really just kind of a lack of awareness in my opinion, because with the clock stopping no matter what, you put your best pass play out there, you get that first down, you put the ball in CJ Stroud's hands, the game's over. But they just ran the ball. They snapped it with 2:07. They ran the ball, and then they put it in position to where on third down, it was all or nothing. And the Texans ended up throwing to Hutchinson. Some say Hutchinson got interfered with. I get that. I also thought the DB was like right in front of it. So it's probably a little bit more difficult call for the official. But the fact that he didn't throw there, that kind of tells me that he doesn't really know what the hell he's doing either, because that is actually the ideal throwing situation for an offense where the clock is stopping no matter what. Like, you don't benefit from running the ball. The clock is going down. It's going to stop no matter what. So those two things were really troubling when it comes to Bobby Slowick. And I don't know. I said this yesterday. I think Bobby Slowick is probably a guy that's a really good test taker, as long as he knows when the final is, as long as it's a date on the syllabus that, the final is on Friday. But as soon as that teacher gives you a pop quiz, he pisses his pants and he ends up having to go to the nurse's office and he fails. Like, I don't think Bobby Slowick is good at adjustments. And it's been pathetic. I don't want to hear that they don't have Nico Collins. The defense doesn't have Will Anderson, but we got a serious Bobby Slowick problem at this point, and we can try to figure out how to fix it, but it is definitely there, and it is a big problem for the Texans.
Not only did he choose to run the football there on that 2nd and 6 that you're talking about there at the end of the game, it's not like they were running the football amazingly. It's not like Joe Mixon was ripping off 5 yards a carry. They had 3+ quarters of evidence that they could not run block and they could not run consistently against this Lions team. I'm in favor of putting the ball in the air. Absolutely. Like you said, if they had some amazing rushing attack that they knew that, hey, Joe's about to rip off 4 or 5 yards here, that's going to give us 3rd and 2 after the 2-minute warning, but they weren't getting yards on the ground. Joe Mixon finished averaging 1.7 yards per carry. And it's not like he had some sort of amazing run play called. I feel like everybody in the stadium knew that Bobby Slowick was going to put the ball in Joe Mixon's hands on 2nd down. The predictability is a awful portion of the Bobby Slowick evaluation too. They get so predictable with how they set things up and how they run plays. It feels like defenses key on them all the time. I mean, how many times did the Lions run something and it looked like the Texans weren't necessarily ready for it, or weren't? I mean, they ran a screen that went for positive yards, and I was like, God, I didn't know that was allowed. And then they did it again on the back-to-back play because the Texans defense wasn't ready for it, or they'd called it at the perfect time. And Slowick's running double reverses with John Mechie like he's Tyreek Hill, and and then throwing the ball sideways to Robert Woods. Like, it's a really bad performance from the offensive coordinator, and it's been a symptom now for the majority of the season that he is not up to par for what this team needs to succeed. And yesterday was the latest example of it.
Going to the super chat, swarming the super chat. Good morning to all y'all waking up with us. It is SNL, Landry Locker, Cody, Stoots. It feels like Bobby has a short leash on CJ.
As in, like, he doesn't trust him, you think? Like, he didn't trust him enough?
I don't know, because he's putting him in like these obvious third down. I mean, he put him in a third down situation where it was basically all or nothing with CJ. I don't think Bobby has a formula. Like, I don't think there's a method to Bobby Slowick's madness. It doesn't seem like he has a real guide. It doesn't seem like he has a real grasp. And the offense just it's kind of hilarious, honestly, that the offense is, you have a situation with the offense where they make this offensive line shuffle and they almost traded crappy pass blocking for crappy run blocking. That's pretty much where you're at with this offensive line, where, okay, well, Yeah, the pass blocking was better. The run blocking was awful. You can't have both. So you have that situation with Bobby Slowick, but then he just doesn't seem to grasp and have a feel of what's going on with the actual squad. And here's what's going to happen. Like, I'm just telling you how this offense works. This is like just a spoiler alert. Nico Collins is going to come back. The offense is going to look better. And basically the presentation is going to be, well, see, Nico Collins makes that much of a difference when you don't have your best players. It's impossible, which is stupid, because in the NFL, players are going to get hurt, and you're going to be without guys at certain times. And DeMeco Ryans, like on the other side of the ball, he's without guys. And whenever he's without guys, somehow these guys are still put in position to make plays. And you can't function like that. We could go through every roster in the league, and I can promise you that there's someone on their team that they would really, really love to have, but they're having to make do anyways. But that's what's going to happen is Nico Collins is going to come back. It's going to get a little bit better, but it's still going to have a limited ceiling based on what Bobby Slowick has done.
I mean, look, you talk about guys missing and getting the job done. The Detroit Lions yesterday, missing their left tackle, they got the job done. Yeah, Goff got pressured a little bit, but they held up enough for him. On their defensive line, they're missing one of the best players in football because Aiden Hutchinson broke his leg a month ago, and they traded for a guy that they couldn't even play this week. I mean, they had a bunch of slappies there on the
cheerleader this week.
Yeah, on the defensive line. And you know what? You talked about, like, as we talk about Bobby Slowick, because we talk about CJ Stroud and kind of how he feels about CJ Stroud and the position that he put Stroud in. You know what the very first thing that CJ Stroud mentioned after he did his usual, I want to thank my Lord and Savior and the opportunity, and the Lions are a good team. The very first thing he said, it's not easy to be on third and long a lot. And they constantly are in third and long a lot. And sometimes it's the rushing attack didn't get it done. Sometimes it's penalties, but so much operation in third and long. And then Bobby Slowick just becomes paralyzed and can't figure out how to adjust that or change that over the course of a game. And CJ Stroud's got to kind of live with the results.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, Bobby Slowick's got to go. So there's the fire Bobby Slowick thing.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, Bobby Slowick has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. I think that's what Don was trying to get to.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know about that one, but the thing about Bobby Slowick is, can Gerard Johnson call plays? Like, what do we know about Gerard? Has Gerard Johnson done a good job? Like, do you feel like CJ Stroud is playing good? Like, CJ Stroud's not playing good either. Like, I know the surroundings aren't ideal. CJ Stroud took the blame for the loss yesterday, which I think might be a little bit dramatic. But CJ Stroud throws an interception on the first play of the second half, and he throws an interception in the end zone. So he had a big hand in why the Texans didn't score a single point in the second half. So, like, what does Gerard Johnson do that Bobby Slowick doesn't do? We don't know. It could be good. I wouldn't bet against Gerard Johnson being good at something. But do we know that Gerard Johnson's just ready to call plays? Probably not. We don't know that yet.
I mean, Landry, it took them 5 weeks to change one offensive lineman, it took them 9 weeks to change one offensive lineman on one of the worst offensive lines in football. They're not changing the offensive coordinator midseason. Like, I know people aren't happy with Bobby Slowick. They're not changing the guy who calls the plays in the middle of the year when it took them 9 weeks to change a player out on a bad offensive line. It's like we can hope and think and people can call for Bobby Slowick's job. That's not happening. That's not happening. Maybe they add in a voice or two into the process, but Bobby Slowick's going to have the menu, the headset, and he's going to be calling the plays in Dallas a week from today.
Gavin says, hey, guys, remember last week when I said, why do people always do Cole Bleep versus us? Well, here we are again, 15 points and 5 picks, shaking my damn head, man. Yeah, I mean, the
1970, since the team had 5 interceptions and came back from that type of deficit.
And this was an elite effort by the defense, too. That's what's crazy about it, is this was an elite defensive effort, just elite, and they were unable to get the job done there. Text in, what Howard did is much deeper rooted issue to strip sack your QB tells you everything you need to know about what he brings to the team.
That's one of the most awful plays I've ever seen from an offensive lineman.
Do we want to get into the Titus Howard thing? I asked yesterday. I was very surprised. I guess his awareness rating in Madden is an 84, which I thought would be way lower. I mean, they got to adjust that, right? I know they adjust grades. They got to adjust that.
It should be a 0 going forward.
Yeah,
try to take the ball out of the quarterback's hands.
What are you gonna do? He take it, he stripped it. Like when he couldn't get it, he ended up like it was like a textbook strip. Like it's something you teach a DB.
It's not like CJ was like, Titus, take this. You can get the first down. Like that's not what happened. He was ripping. Like Stroud was actively trying to hold on to the football, and Titus Howard ripped the ball out of his hands.
Yeah, and I think he was clearly trying to be a hero. I guess like trying to strip it and run. That was his. I know Titus plays video games. That I'm assuming that was his goal was to rip it and run forward and stuff and have his big man offensive line moment, right? I mean, is that what the line of thinking was?
I don't know what the line of thinking was. Titus declined to talk after the game yesterday.
Okay, so Titus declined to talk. It's funny how when they win, he's right there every time. It's the offensive line is. And by the way, Laramie Tunsil got mixed pretty bad on that play too. That's the second straight week that Laramie Tunsil has gotten mixed on pressure. Yeah, that was the dumbest play that I've ever watched in a football game. Honestly, like that was. And I remember the Leon Lett stuff. I've seen guys drop the ball at the 1 yard line. That was as bad as it gets when it comes to trying to make some sort of play. That was embarrassing by Titus Howard, just all around. That was pathetic. I don't know what he was doing. T says, morning, gents, very bad night. Bobby is extremely basic. Running on 2nd and 30 is fireable. I don't have a problem with that. Like once there's like no chance at getting the first down. For me, the 3rd and 10 was the most frustrating thing, where you decide to run on 3rd and 10 and just have Fairbairn attempt the 50-plus yard field goal. To me, that's where you're making your biggest mistakes.
That was the field goal to make it 13-7. They ran on and they lost 3 yards on that one too. By the way, they ran on 3rd and 10 and lost 3 yards, and then it was 56-yarder to make it 13-7. Yeah.
Zach says go for 4th and 4. I would rather punt than go at that point, to be honest with you. I think they've also been very fortunate that Fairbairn has made these 50-plus yard field goals and made them look relatively easy. I think he's up to 11. It almost feels like they've treated those as if they're just bunnies and they're gimmies. And there's a reason that it's as impressive of a job as Fairbairn's done. Like, I know Bates made the 58-yarder yesterday for the Lions, and God, he sucked in camp in 2023. Jeez, he was terrible. But the 58-yarder, I mean, whether I didn't feel 100% confident. I saw some people saying Fairbairn's been fine. That's a long ass field goal that you're asking him to make there. And it looked like the snap was actually high from Weeks as well.
I do wonder, if you play out the odds, what has a better chance of success? A 58-yard field goal or a 4th and 4 play with CJ Stroud throwing the ball, or even like you said, punting the football and trusting the defense. Now, the Lions had plenty of time and plenty of resources to go through and try to move the ball down the field and get into field goal range. Look, 58 yards, you're not going to convince me that was that much of a better play, or that was that much of a better decision than trying to run a play there. Because if you get the first down there, at the very least, the Lions burn their timeouts to get closer. And you were very close to getting a first down on 3rd and 4. CJ kind of saw things late. Yeah, it was a little bit of an iffy no call by the officials. But in that situation, 4th and 4, putting the ball in the air, that feels like a slightly better option than 58 yards from your kicker.
You think going for it on 4th and 4 is a better option than kicking?
Better than 58-yard field goal.
Okay. I think if you're – go ahead.
I mean, you can't tell me that teams convert 58-yard field goals on a higher rate than 4th and 4s.
No, I would rather punt. I mean, I would rather punt. That would be my like punt, or if you're really that desperate and you actually they did not respect the situation. And it goes back to the second down play. It's not about going for it on 4th. When you have a second down situation where the clock is stopping no matter what. So it's not like in Green Bay where if you run the ball, they have to burn a timeout or the clock burns. Okay, that's what Bobby Slowick did. That was the most foolish, stupid, idiotic thing that we've seen this year by a coach, was Bobby Slowick doing that. When you do that, though, if you run the ball, it's because you're making them burn a timeout or you're making them stop the clock. You had run the ball worse in this game than you had the entire season. Like they're averaging less than 2 yards per carry. This was the worst. As a matter of fact, I actually think if you go back and watch that final Texans offensive drive, the first down runs that Joe Mixon had, I think he had like a 4-yard run and a 2-yard run. Those were hard ass runs that he had no business getting. Like watch the first play where he picks up 4 and he makes like second, third down more manageable. Like he had to fight his ass off to get those 4 yards. And there was also another first down where I think he got 2 or 2.5, 3 yards where he probably should have lost 3. So you have damn near 3 hours, about 58 minutes of game time of proof that the run is not working. You've actually made some big plays in the pass game. You had you've converted on third a couple of times, 3rd and long, to be honest with you. So if you know the clock is stopping, if you know you can't run the ball, why in the hell on second down when the 2-minute warning is going to stop the clock no matter what, why are you running just to set up a we have to have it type of thing? I don't think they respected the situation. I think they just think 58-yard field goals grow on trees. Like, I don't know. Like, it
did feel like they sort of kind of were like, oh, well, we're kind of near Chinese field goal range.
Dudes, they ran the ball on 3rd and 10. And this was after they'd converted a couple of third downs. They ran the ball on 3rd and 10 to kick Miami's first 50-plus yard field goal. If you go back and look at it, it was 3rd and 10, and they just ran the ball and just accepted that Fairbairn was going to kick a 58-yard field goal. It's there's no logic to to what they're doing. And it's easy for the Texans. Like, the only reason I'm giving these examples are because it's easy to see that the offense isn't scoring and say, well, the play calling sucks and stuff. No, these are actual examples that show that he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Bobby Slowick doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He doesn't understand situations. Like, and he seems to, for some reason, think that kicking field goals, long field goals, is just a normal thing, and that's something that goes down and something that you should just be used to. He doesn't know what he's doing. He has no clue what he's doing. He has no grasp of what's going down. What drive was it? I think it was the third. No. It was the to make it 13-7. The Texans. He kicks a 56-yard field goal. Okay, so here you go. Here's exactly what happens. 3rd and 10 from the 35. Joe Mixon rushes for -3 yards. So not only were you just settling for the field goal from the 35, he goes for -3 yards, and then you kick a 56-yarder. So he basically just functioned as if that was something that you should try to get. That's embarrassing. And then you go back and look, and let's look at this. Let's look at this before that. Before they decided to settle for that 56-yard field goal, because I think this is important. Because I think it's about feel, and we're not trying to be simps, and we're not just trying to sit here and say, well, Bobby Slowick doesn't call plays or doesn't know what he's doing on offense. Let's just lay this out. What had happened up to that point to where you run the ball on 3rd and 10 and settle for the field goal? Are you ready? You want to hear these third downs? Okay.
Yeah, they start from they start from the 30 on this drive.
No, yeah. Okay, let's go drive 1. 3rd and 10. CJ Stroud throws to Tank Dell for 13 yards. So you converted a 3rd and 10. CJ Stroud made a hell of a play. 3rd and 16. John Mechie moves the chains on third and 16. So right off the top, on third down, the Texans are blocking pretty well, and they're moving the ball. This is the first drive. 3rd and 10, you move the chains with Tank Dell. 3rd and 16, you move the chains with Mechie. Then Joe Mixon ends up scoring. So there you go. Now we go to the next Texans drive. You have a 3rd and goal from the 11. Stroud gets sacked. So that was the 3rd down there. Now you go to the 56-yard field goal. On 3rd and 10, you just run the ball with Joe Mixon. When you've already moved the chains on 3rd and long twice, you just completely give up and you just say, okay, we're going to settle for the 50+ yard field goal with Fairbairn. That just shows that you have no feel of what's going on. Like, and that's the problem right there. And then you fast forward to the end of the game, it's more of the same. Second down, the clock's not going to stop. You decide, okay, well, we're just going to run the ball, and then we're going to make C.J. Stroud have to make a play on 3rd down with Xavier Hutchinson on the field. There's no field. There's no grasp.
Once they got into Detroit territory on that final drive, they did not feel like they were taking any sort of initiative to get deep into Detroit territory and make this thing easy. It felt very, very conservative, especially with the couple of runs not throwing there on 2nd down ahead of the 2-minute warning. Once they got in Detroit territory, I did not like the way the offense operated at all.
Big Steve on the super. Other fans watching the Texans must be how everyone outside New York feels watching the Jets. Boring. Perhaps. I mean, the primetime embarrassment probably doesn't help. Lions made the adjustment on Petrie. He was causing havoc in the first half. They then started to dominate in the trenches. The team isn't good. Yeah, Ben Johnson. That's what I said in the middle of the Texans winning. It's like Butterbean going the distance versus Floyd Mayweather. Like Bobby Slowick cannot, unless you just knock it out and you make the lead so big. He's not going 12, 15 rounds because he has no idea what he's doing. He has no idea what he's doing. He has no feel. He has no grasp. And I'll admit this too. There's something else that's even more troubling about this offense, to where I think we can solve this crime, because I think on this show we solved the crime on the offensive line. And I'm just going to say this now. Kenyon Green was the problem. I know he's hurt. Kenyon Green was the problem. Like, the offensive line, as far as pass blocking, is way better without Kenyon Green. He was the problem. And that was very well known for weeks, but that was the mystery. And we said if you hired an independent investigator, then you would come to one of two conclusions. Number one, someone that's on this offensive line this year that wasn't here last year is part of the problem. Number two, the more time that guys spend with Bobby Slowick, the less prepared they are to block. We solved that crime. There is another crime that I think that needs to be solved with Bobby Slowick that we'll get to in a second. And I'm very, very troubled by this. Back on the super chat, any update on Kamari? Looked pretty bad. I think he had a concussion.
Yeah, I'd be pretty surprised if he's playing on Monday.
Kevin Smith says Bobby
friendly fire, by the way.
Yeah.
Jimmy Ward just bowls him over. I mean, friendly fire. It's not like he got hurt trying to tackle somebody making a big play. Nope, Jimmy Ward just came in and destroyed him.
Kevin Smith says Bobby calls plays like he's completely overwhelmed and just throws random ish against the wall, hoping something will work. There's no rhythm to it.
It's just, I mean, it's not like they got significantly better at running the football after like a slow start running the football. Like the pass blocking got better. The run blocking was atrocious. And the Lions not only executed well early on, but then you could sort of see they knew when the Texans were going to start running the football and were able to make plays and stuff Joe Mixon. And there was no answer for the issues with the run blocking by the Texans in this game.
Zach Rose, either way, you give the ball back. Make sure Townsend could have pinned them inside the 10. He's not consistent either. If we convert, he's actually been really good lately. Really, really good lately.
Yeah, he's bounced back from an early season swoon.
Yeah, he's done a good job. Looked like Slowick found some Bill O'Brien game plans and thought, yeah, we'll try that. Is the Billy Slowick?
Is it Billy O. Slowick or Bobby O'Brien?
Bobby Slowick needs to be fired today. It is SNL here. Landry Locker.
Got some bad news for you guys. They're not firing Bobby Slowick. Like, they're not going to fire. It took them 9 weeks to make a meaningful change on the offensive line. They're not firing the offensive coordinator.
So what change do you think they should make on offense, if any?
They're not going to take away play calling duties. So perhaps in the preparation, more people have a voice in the offense. Or if a lot of people have a voice, maybe they need less voices. However they're building and putting things together offensively, they've got to change that. And yes, I know it worked for a half of football, but they cannot be this bad at halftime going forward. Like this is they're averaging 4 points in the second half over the last 3 games. It's 31st in the NFL, and the Denver Broncos are worse. Like, this is pathetic. So whatever the approach is to building the game plan, okay, they've got to change that. If it's not enough voices, add more voices. If it's too many voices, take voices away. Like, whatever they're doing in the building of this offensive game plan, it's got to change. It's got to change because they look like half an offense most of the time. Like, they couldn't run block yesterday. They kept running the football, and they kept being very obvious about how they run the football. A couple weeks ago when they couldn't throw, they kept dropping back in key situations, big drop back, CJ Stroud would get sacked. Like, they've got to change the way that they build things because they're not going to change who has the headset and who's calling the plays. So they've got to change the way that it's put together. And so if that means additional input from people or less input from people, that's where you change.
979 H-Town fan says, in defense of Bobby, it's miserable calling plays when you're crippled by an atrocious offensive line. I would agree, but again, the pass blocking was good. That's what's really confusing. The pass blocking was good, and then the run blocking was bad.
Yeah, they did a much better job from a pass blocking standpoint. Still had a couple of just what the hell was that moments. They did a much better job. 16 quarterback pressures allowed. Only allowed pressure on 42%. That's still not ideal. But sometimes CJ Stroud wasn't seeing stuff right away, and so pressure was allowed to get there because he didn't make the play fast enough. But they did a much better job pass blocking as an offensive line than they had been against the Packers and the Colts and that putrid performance against the Jets.
Miles in Cognac says it's a wasted year if they don't get rid of Bobby Slowick. We Nation, this team reminds me of the 2016 squad. CJ's a lot better than Osweiler. I don't remember Godsey being more conservative than Slowick. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very defensive dependent, and the offense has a limited ceiling.
I did not think we would talk about George freaking Godsey today, but here we are. Brutal play calling. Brutal operation of the offense. No ability to pull out of a nosedive when things are going wrong. Like, if Bobby Slowick had a grease fire in his house, he probably would throw water on it and make it worse. Like, awful.
KJM Slowick has to go. Run play on 2nd and 30. Slowick proves over and over again he's not the one. What is it going to take for him to be gone? The 2nd and 30 didn't piss me off as much as the 3rd and 10. 2nd and 30, it's basically a lost drive at that point. The 3rd and 10 was what really, really bothered me with Bobby Slowick.
Yeah, they got into 2nd and 30 because Drew Scruggs got a holding call. And then they got sacked on 1st down.
If Bobby was
that was when Shaq Mason he put hands on the defensive lineman, and then it's like he touched a stove burner and was like, oh, and then the guy just ran past. The guy actually got hurt on the play because it was such an easy sack. He got hurt sacking CJ Stroud for a loss of 10 because Shaq Mason touched him and then was like, oh, I'm not supposed to do that. Yeah, that's actually exactly what you're supposed to do, Shaq.
If Bobby was actually fired, and that's a huge if, who would take over play calls? Probably Gerard Johnson, I would think.
Yeah, Gerard Johnson or Bill Lazor.
How about Case Keenum? 2nd year head coach, QB, OC might be overreacting. What? So you think that they should be not?
Well, see, here's the problem. No, we're not overreacting because the quarterback, the offensive coordinator, the offensive line, and even in some situations, the head coach with his operation of the game have taken steps back from last year. The offensive coordinator is worse than he was last year. The quarterback's playing worse than he was playing last year. Like they have the exact same record as they did a year ago through 10 at 6-4, and you feel significantly worse about the offense. And mainly because the offensive line has perpetrated crimes against their operation throughout the course of the season. But when that thing got fixed a little bit, the offensive coordinator lost his mind in the second half of games. And then the quarterback's not making enough plays. And he's not crisp enough. And yes, part of that is because they spent 3 weeks letting the opposing defense beat his head into the ground. And so it probably has affected him, and it probably has affected what he sees and his ability to just plant his foot and sling the ball with what he sees. And he's trying to do a little bit too much.
We're giving him excuses. Like, come on. Like this was not that. Like, he went up there, he took the blame. Quit giving CJ Stroud excuses, dude. Like he played terrible.
I'm not making excuses for him.
Have fun. Yeah, you are. You're like, well, part of it might have to do with the fact that he got his head beaten. It's no, man, don't give him excuses.
So that can't make him gun shy? Why is he not trusting his eyes? Why is he not throwing the ball fast enough?
Not trusting his eyes. I don't know. He's not playing well. I mean, maybe we need to start.
So what causes that?
I don't know. But here's the thing that gets to me, and this is the mystery that I don't understand. And this is one of the things, and this goes back to the previous mention. It is SNL, Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. This goes back to the previous mention about the offensive line, where obviously it was either someone, assuming that they're just not poorly coached and dumb, that it was either someone on this offensive line is making them significantly worse, or the more time they spend with Bobby Slowick, they're worse. And we figured out now that Kenyon Green was obviously the main problem when it came to pass protection. I think we've solved that mystery, right?
Yes.
Let's solve another mystery. And I want you to explain this to me, and I want you to explain me why this is. And it might be connected to the previous mystery. At the end of the first half, and I don't deal in hindsight. I'll say what I thought they should have done regardless of the results. That's just what I do. So I will raise my hand and I will admit 100% that while I think they should have thrown the ball on second down, I thought at the end of the first half with where they were, I would have just let the clock run down and I wouldn't have even called the timeout, and I would have just taken it to the house had I been the Texans. I would have done that. That would have been how I would have approached it. There would have been 7 less points on the board had I made that decision, because at the end of the first half, the Texans aggressively decide, okay, despite the fact our offense has been really, really meh, despite the fact this is a relatively close-ish game, given the fact that we have forced Jared Goff to look pedestrian and force all these turnovers, we're going to call timeout with under 2 minutes left. We're going to put our offense out there. And not only do they put their offense out there, the offense moves the ball, and they end up scoring a touchdown at the end of the second quarter. John Mechie, 3 catches. He has the first touchdown of his career, and they end up scoring, taking it to the house, and they have all the momentum in the world. Explain to me why in the fuck, and yeah, why in the fuck is it that in that situation with that level of aggressiveness where you're almost getting greedy, why is it that they're able to move the ball at the end of first halves, but as soon as the second half starts, they don't have a clue? Like, how does that work? Is it because your nuts actually drop because someone pushes you into the diving board? Is it because your head coach is displaying aggressiveness, so you feel like you got to drop your nuts because D'Amico Ryans is calling the timeouts and basically saying, hey, go get us points or else? Because there's got to be something to that, to where the Texans offense in that situation, and I think it's multiple situations. I don't have the stats, but there's been multiple times where they've stolen points or tried to steal points at the end of the first half, and they've been able to do it. But then that team, and this is without Nico Collins, but then that team goes out there and they can't score a damn touchdown in the second half. There has to be something to it. Like maybe the balls drop a little bit more. Maybe the confidence is higher. Maybe it's a tempo thing. Maybe it's something where because DeMeco Ryans in that situation is instilling his will and he's calling the timeout, and you feel like the teacher, you feel like the supervisor, and that's basically what DeMeco is on offense. He's not overseeing the offense. He can, but you know how you have a teacher in school, and that teacher might be one of the worst teachers in the world and they suck. But as soon as the supervisor shows up, all of a sudden that teacher, you're like, what class is this? Like when did you start making us take notes? When did you start actually teaching and not just sitting back there on your desk? There has to be something to that, because it doesn't make any sense that offense in that instance can be that aggressive, that effective, and get the job done. And then after a 15-minute break, they come out and on 2nd down and 4 before the 2-minute warning, they're not throwing. It doesn't make any sense. Oh, and before that, on 3rd and 10, you're running and settling for a 50-plus yard field goal. How do I explain that? How do I solve that mystery?
The only thing that I could think as you were laying that out there is there's less options for Bobby Slowick. He has to pare everything down and trim everything down. They got to hit the best plays. They got to keep it in the air. And there's less options for him. He can't pick out from the whole IHOP menu what he wants. Nope. You got to pick from the value menu. You got to get the most out of what you got. And then when he has all these options, he's running all this goofy shit where they're running reverses and handoffs to Tank Dell and trying to run the ball when they can't run the ball and trying to get K Stover in motion to come around and crack through on a block and this and that. And when there's less options, like that drive that you just described, they're able to execute and nail it. But when he's got all these options coming out of halftime, it's like, let's try this. Let's do that.
Bobby Slowick is the guy where if you go out to eat with him and you give him too much time to look at the menu, he orders chicken tenders at the Mexican restaurant. Like that's like if the waiter comes and the other 2-3 people at the table say they're ready to go and he's not, then all of a sudden he's coming out with a Mexican platter that's like nothing you've ever seen before.
And he made an adjustment to the platter that made it even better somehow. And you're like, whoa, look at that.
I seriously think this guy is an overthinker, because in every instance where he has, whether it's having more time with offensive linemen, whether it's having more time to think, whether it's what's in front of him, I think this guy is just a complete overthinker.
Yes, no doubt.
So I don't know how to explain that, but I think you did a good job of at least giving some thoughts to perhaps make some sense of what the hell it is to where this Texans offense can look good at the end of the second half, but then completely disappear. Zach says, stop the wide receiver screens. Would like to potentially go back to the zone run scheme next season. Thoughts? Can we get why do you have problem with the run game? Because of one game? Like I'm not there's a lot of things that I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna bitch about, but I don't have any problem with the way they're running the ball right now. So yeah, changing the run scheme to me, Zach, doesn't make a lot of sense. The tight end involvement, I don't understand it. Part of me says, well, Dalton Schultz, he's not as explosive and all that. But then I see him make plays, and I'm like, okay, well, why is that guy not more of a factor without Nico Collins? So I don't know what's up with the tight end involvement. Could be connected to the offensive line. I don't feel like I'm seeing a ton of wide receiver screens either. That's just me, though.
Stover had a drop yesterday. Ball hits.
Yeah, they didn't even show the replay on ABC. That seems to be a weekly thing. Stover not coming down with catchable balls.
Stover had a drop.
That was the most yards Schultz has had this year.
Yeah, I mean, Schultz catches a lot of flack from people, and I feel like he hasn't had a bad season by any means. I mean, it's not been as productive as people probably wanted for a guy that makes.
He makes a play, I'm like,
yeah. Well, he's one of the only guys that gets open consistently.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, why is that not?
Now the flip side of that is neither of those guys can block worth a damn, Stover or Schultz. I mean, neither of those guys do a good job helping out in the run game or blocking. Like. That's a disaster every time they go up there against somebody.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm. KJM says CJ is not prepared due to coaching.
Okay.
Nathan,
I mean, you can't coach that Tank Dell miss from CJ. Like they called the exact right play for that situation, and the quarterback didn't see it. So, if you want to blame coaching for that one, that's fine. After he saw it, then he threw off his front foot and threw a duck. And Carlton Davis, who was supposed to wake up this morning with nightmares about Tank Dell, pulled down his second interception of the game. So, I mean, we're going to blame Bobby Slowick for a lot. I'm not blaming Bobby Slowick for CJ Stroud throwing a quacker to Carlton Davis when he should have seen Tank Dell for a touchdown and make that a 17-point lead. I'm not blaming Slowick for that one.
T says, hate blaming officials. Can't help but feeling that PI is called. We win the game still. Something. Yeah, I mean,
how about don't throw the ball to Xavier Hutchinson on third down? How about that? How about don't call a play where he's the guy that's going to get you the first down on third down?
Who do you have in mind?
Anybody but him.
I'll tell you what, the decision to get rid of Noah Brown looks like one of the worst decisions that they've made in camp in a long, long time. Because whenever Nico Collins is out, and I get that John Mechie, and I know that the local media is going to soak that up. I mean, I'm expecting probably like 16 news stories this week, and probably like 8 columns, and you're going to go around him at his locker. He did what a number 3-4 receiver is supposed to do when your number 1's out. All right, he had a few catches, he caught a touchdown. Like that's supposed to happen every once in a while. I mean, it's not. It's great. It happened. Most of it. 3 of the catches happened on that one drive, the previously mentioned drive. But I mean,
49 of his 74 yards came on that one drive.
I mean, we're almost treating. I mean, he's almost getting treated like.
Yeah, you know what I was saying when John Mechie was doing this? Finally, he's gotten a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
Finally, he does something.
That's what a number 3 or 4 receiver is supposed to do. Like make some plays every once in a while.
Finally, he makes a couple of plays.
Rick B says 10 games, 4 TDs in the second half. That's a play calling issue, not just a position issue. Slowick needs balls. I agree completely.
That many.
I can't make much sense of it.
That many touchdowns in the second half. I would have guessed the under.
Well, a couple of them came against New England.
And one of them was when you were down 21-0 to Minnesota. To make it 21-7.
It pains me to say this. Every time someone says it pains me to say this, I think like, what is about to happen here? You either coach it or you condone it. Teams typically take on the personality of their head coach into first/second half. The personality of D'Amico Ryans. Is that?
I don't agree that. Is D'Amico Ryan supposed to call the offense?
I think his defense put on a hell of an effort this week and against Green Bay, quite honestly. The last 2 times that the Texans have played what many would consider to be a contender, they've put together pretty solid efforts on with D'Amico's defense. T again. Would have been nice to get a big sack from Hunter. I thought that the pressure was good. They didn't get a sack, but I thought the pressure was fine.
I mean,
the D-line was fine. They stopped the run, man.
I understand that they didn't get a sack in the box score, but Danico Autry basically sacked Jared Goff, and that's how that's why the ball flew out into Henry To'oTo'o's hands. Like Goff was uncomfortable. They put pressure on him as much as they usually have. No, probably because they've got a guy who's a couple of weeks into his NFL season who's been on the bench having to rush opposite Danielle Hunter. They lose one of their better defensive tackles in this game, and Foley Fatukasi. He doesn't finish the game. Did you want a little bit more pressure? Sure. Should the offense have done a lot more with their opportunities? No doubt.
That's not what the game plan was. The game plan was to stop the run. And I heard Collinsworth say this. Well, it's nice that they told him that. But the game plan was to stop the run and make Jared Goff a pocket passer. That was the game plan, and I thought the game plan was perfect.
And then that
means staying in your gap and making Gibbs and making Montgomery have to beat you. I thought the defensive game plan was perfect. I did not need a sack.
And then you saw when they couldn't slow down the run when they weren't as crisp as they were in the first half. Then Detroit was able to get some things going. They got a little bit more comfortable. They were able to move the
That's
football.
inevitable, though. They're good. I mean,
Sure.
It's
No,
one of
I'm not bringing that up as a criticism of the defense. I'm just
No,
showing
okay.
it
Yeah,
shows
there's a shelf life on it. Like when you're holding back a flood or something like that, or a pipe is leaking, like eventually it's going to burst. The offense has to do something. And I hate whenever the defense gives up this has happened a couple of times with D'Amico. I hate when the defense gives up like a last second field goal or something like that, and all of a sudden, well, the defense gave you. If you get that effort against that team, and you hold the Detroit Lions to 26 points, and you force 5 interceptions, could have easily been 6. One of them was a Hail Mary, and you hold that rushing attack to what they had, you should win the game. Period, point blank, end of story. There are not too many defense. Oh, and by the way, you don't have Will Anderson. So there's no – oh, and by the way, Kamari Lassiter ended up getting hurt too. If you do that, then you should win the game, period. This is on the offense.
The defense played far more than enough for this. You know, the Lions average over 14 points per second quarter, and the defense held them to 7 points in the second quarter. Like, the defense did a fantastic job, and they shouldn't have to go through a half of football where they have to be perfect for this team to win. You're supposed to, when you have the reigning offensive rookie of the year, when you have a heavy investment in your offensive line, you're supposed to be able to help out the defense. They shouldn't have to be perfect in the second half of a game after they already played their ass off for an entire first half, and they're shorthanded. They shouldn't have to be perfect.
Let's stop talking about how much they invested in the offensive line. The investment needs to go away. At this point, it's just time to consolidate it. Like, you got to figure out how to do some damage control. Maybe like open up another credit card. Let's say it's the Bobby Slowick develop a fucking brain credit card, where you consolidate that into the Bobby Slowick, like develop some sort of brain credit card, because this was a waste of money. Like, you're not going to get any return on investment on this offensive line. It's not.
That's fair.
Yeah. So let's stop. I'm the king of bringing it up. So I'm not just like singling you. I'm just saying, like,
I feel very singled out, but okay.
It's a waste of money.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. And by the way,
leaving the offensive line out of it, you got CJ Stroud, you got Joe Mixon. You're supposed to be able to put some points on the board. The defense shouldn't have to be perfect.
I Must Pandaline says, nonchalant, nothing is a big deal. We look at the positives. She's talking about D'Amico. I think that's 100%. I mean, that's fair. Like, the offense gets treated with baby gloves. And, you know, D'Amico is, I guess it's his way of sticking his chest out for him. He says, what did he say yesterday? He said, we're looking at everything when it comes to it. Okay. You don't have credibility on offense, coach. Your defense has the most amount of credibility, but when it comes to offense, you left Kenyon Green out there for weeks, man. Like, you actually put him in a bad position by trying to put him in a good position. So if D'Amico was saying this about his defense, I would believe him, but I do not believe D'Amico Ryans when he says anything about offense. Right now, he's just a defensive-minded head coach. The offense doesn't know what they're doing. You just have to hope they get better with Nico Collins, and that's the end of it. But I don't believe you, sir, when you say that you're looking into stuff on
they were going to look at everything, and they ran Kenyon Green's ass back out there. So yeah, your point is well taken.
Yeah, that's what it is. Shout out to Matt Marr. Defense put up a masterclass performance. Offense just didn't perform. Shout out to Marr. We met him last week.
Great to meet Matt Marr.
I asked Suzanne if she was his wife. She was pretty offended, but I didn't say mom. I said wife. She was pretty offended by it. I was just observation, man. Shout out to her too. Yeah, the offense just didn't perform. I think that's the real theme. SBZ, fellows, the conservative approach on offense at the end of the game. D'Amico is the head coach, not just the DC. Yeah, I feel you, man. Like, I feel you. It's just, I don't know what he can do on offense, but I'm with you. He's got to step in and do something.
I do wonder. We sit here and we've spent the better part of this hour here breaking down the issues that Bobby Slowick has, I do wonder if the head coach is like, man, I don't know if I trust this guy for us to put our foot on the gas in this moment. So I wonder if some of the conservative moments that they have is because the head coach doesn't walk over there and say, hey, let's put our foot on the gas here. Let's not settle for that 58-yarder because he maybe doesn't trust the offensive coordinator.
Brian says when you ask him, because we're on the scene every day, if you're new to SNL, be sure to subscribe to both our channels, Landry Locker, Cody Stoots. We're 1,800 deep when you combine X and the YouTube. So we got a hell of a crowd here. We appreciate you for coming through. If you're not a Texans fan, just go ahead and subscribe, get the pulse of what's going on from guys in the mix. And we promise you won't regret that. The local news game, the local media game is changing, and we've been doing this for a while, and we feel you won't find a better product when it comes to getting the pulse of what's going on with the Texans. He says when you ask him about play calling, he'll say he didn't have the looks at one. Now, my question for Bobby Slowick on Thursday is very simple. It's Thursday or Friday. I'm not sure what their schedule looks like. I know they're off today.
Yeah, the schedule is different this week, but stay tuned to us. We'll take care of it for you.
But this is my question. It's very simple. Why should people trust that you can call an effective offense and get this offense performing where they need to be? That's my question. That's it. Because I think there's legitimate concerns. He can say whatever he wants. That's my main question too, Bobby Slowick. Why should people trust that Bobby Slowick is going to put these players in the best position to function on offense? Period. Tell me. I think it's fair.
I'm sitting here trying to think how he's going to answer that question, or if he even has an answer that could put any sort of minds at ease. And I don't know that he's got an answer.
Texas Mike says you can't just hope, Landry. Something has to be done. What am I? I don't know that. What am I hopeful for?
Maybe hope that the offense gets better.
What? I mean,
Texas Mike, if you could clarify, I don't know exactly I've always said hope is not a strategy.
Yeah. I mean, he might deflect. That's fine. But I think that's the question. KJM, so boil it down. Do you think Slowick is gone today? No.
Not a chance.
Nathan Palmer, we're a fraudulent team. The only reason we're a playoff team is because we're in a shit division. And that's the reality of it. And that's why I'm at this point, you just have to hope they flip the switch. You have to hope the matchups go their way. You have to hope Nico significantly improves stuff. The craziest thing about this, they might clinch the division before the bye in 3 weeks.
Oh yeah.
No, they legitimately I think 9 wins it.
They probably do not need to go perfect in the division to still win the division.
No, I think 9 wins it. And right now they're at 6-4. You got the Cowboys, and you're not going to have Kamari Lassiter. They don't have 2 receivers. They also have probably Trey Lance, who D'Amico Ryans probably laughs at, and Bobby Slowick probably laughs at when it comes to what he can do. They have no run game. They have no O-line. The Cowboys are a disaster. Then you have the Jags, who are one of the 5 worst teams in the league. Trevor Lawrence is actually really, really hurt now. They don't know what's up with his shoulder.
Cowboys, then Titans. And then Jags.
Yeah, and then Jags. Yeah, but those are the 3. Yeah, Cowboys, Titans, Jags, and the Titans are a disaster. So the craziest thing about this, and this is kind of like Bill O'Brien, but as bad as this is, the division is just completely in firm control to where am I sitting here saying celebrate it? No, but there's really no ultimate consequences for them. Buffalo's is bad as well, by the way, but that's kind of where the Texans are.
Yeah. I mean, look, the division, they're going to win the division. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to host a playoff game. It's going to be the first game on Saturday of Wild Card Weekend. They probably, depending on who the opponent is, will probably beat them. And the way that this team is headed, they'll do the same thing the Texans have done for years in the playoffs. They'll go on the road in the divisional round, and they'll lose to a better coach team and a more talented team. That's what they're on pace for. They're on pace to do exactly what they always do as a franchise. Unless something changes. We thought it was going to be different with CJ Stroud, but they're very much on pace to do what the Texans have always done. host a playoff game at home, beat a team that has probably a questionable quarterback situation or has some injuries.
What time?
And then go on the road.
What time?
The Houston Texans Saturday afternoon wild card invitational is alive and well.
What time?
Saturday afternoon, baby.
Early or late?
Early. The Saturday afternoon wild card invitational is alive and well.
Might even get like Dan Orlovsky getting a rep. It's always like they'll just give a random ass rep to somebody.
It's like the other ESPN crew or whatever.
It's the rep. It's like the bone. It's like, hey, Booger, what are you doing? You don't even football playoff. Can you come call an NFL game? How does that sound to you?
You don't even get the Monday Night Countdown crew warming you up for the game. You don't even get SVP and Kelsey and Clark. You get now Booger and all those guys.
Right now, there is I'm looking at the betting props right now on Bet US. I'm not really, but I'm making it up. But Louis Riddick is minus 300 to be doing color commentary for the Texans playoff game right now.
And that's what's so frustrating about what we've seen through 10 games is they feel very much like they have always felt. And there was a high desire by the team to make sure they weren't in this situation with the way that they operated this offseason. And there was high expectations that things were going to be different. And yet we still sit here on a collision course with Saturday afternoon wild card weekend and a 4-5 matchup.
Tony says, Landry, you were spot on about, and appreciate you, Tony. You were spot on about Bobby S in the post-game show last night. Bobby should go back and watch it. May change his life. I fired his ass up pretty bad. If y'all want to go back, I fired Bobby Slowick up pretty bad. It goes back to the test taking thing. I just think he's a nerd that gets nervous whenever something actually happens. Damn it, Bobby. Okay. I know where we're going here.
Damn it, Bobby. Damn it, Bobby.
Chase Matthews says we need to be real about CJ's regression. That second half was awful. Confused how he seemed to be so efficient in the first half. Coaching or sophomore something. Could I interest you in a stat?
Yes.
And this is courtesy of Adam Wexler. I don't know if you saw this morning. But we talk about the Texans and we say, well, the Texans haven't scored a second half touchdown since week 6 against New England. Mm-hmm. Look at these stats from CJ Stroud. This is from Adam Wexler of 790. Formerly KPRC, I think one of the best sports minds in town. Wexler said, and I credited him, since week 6, CJ Stroud is 30th in passer rating at 72.7, just behind Mason Rudolph and Daniel Jones. He's completing only 53.7% of his passes. No QB has been sacked more, 18.
More than Stroud in that time, yeah.
Yeah.
Efficient. He was supposed to be a more efficient quarterback this year. I mean, when you looked at what he did in his rookie season, efficiency, and he talked about this and has talked about this a lot. He wanted to operate within the offense. He wanted to execute well. He doesn't like the sort of improvise, try to make it happen type things. And he's not efficient. He's far less efficient than he was last year, and he was inefficient for good stretches last year. And the basic stuff looks hard, and every now and then he makes a play that only 5-6 quarterbacks can make, and you're like, man, there's something special in there. I just wish you could always get that from him or draw that out of him. And they're not doing that on a regular basis.
Yeah, Nico will help, but you shouldn't be that dependent. KJ,
my God, you cannot be dependent on one wide receiver who always gets hurt.
Not to avoid your quarterback being worse than Mason Rudolph and Daniel Jones. Like, I'm sorry, that you can't. We can't get to that.
Also, while we're talking about wide receivers, while we're having the conversation,
I know where this is going. No.
What happened in Pittsburgh yesterday? What happened in Pittsburgh yesterday, Landry?
They won.
How'd they win? Mike Williams, who they traded a 5th-round pick for this week, caught the game-winning touchdown. And this organization knew on Tuesday Nico Collins wasn't playing. But they decided to do this bullshit that just totally disrespects the fans, where they practice this guy on Friday, they activate him on Saturday.
Oh, disrespect the fans.
It's incredibly disrespectful. there was no benefit to Nico Collins practicing on Friday if he wasn't going to play on Sunday. They did not have to do that. They could have opened his practice window. They could have opened his practice window this week, and they could have practiced him this week for a full week of practice and made it very clear that he was going to play against the Dallas Cowboys.
What if
you say gamesmanship, I'm going to lose my fucking mind.
What if D'Amico is listening to the smartest guy in the room, me, and he is down with hashtag rest guys conservatively? What if because the Colts lost and the Jags lost and the Titans lost, the Texans decided we still got a 2+ game lead in the AFC South and we can rest Nico Collins and have him ice up? What if that was what D'Amico was doing?
I'm glad you brought this up, because if that is the thought process by this organization, they don't have a pulse on the locker room. Joe Mixon had a players-only meeting last week with the entire offense, the team, whatever it was. There's clearly a thought in the locker room that they are not good enough and they have to be better and they have to operate better as a team. And if the organization has a thought that, yeah, we got the division locked up, we don't need to rush Nico Collins back. Like, it's one thing to have the opportunity to play him, which they did not have to give themselves. He could have stayed on IR. His practice window could have stayed open without activation to the active roster. Oh, by the way, they cost themselves a cornerback spot because they activated Nico Collins, and it cost them D'Angelo Ross, and he wasn't on, and they had to put Kadar Holman on the field, who's been here for 3 weeks. So that was a pathetic operation by this organization. The offense told you this week, the leader, the guy you just made a captain, told you with their actions they are not good enough on offense, and then they decided to play some games with the wide receiver that is a key element and aspect of this offense, and they don't play him in this game. And I'm sure Aaron Glenn stayed up for 2 days straight thinking Nico Collins was going to play.
He might have.
Not. He didn't give a damn. Because if Ian Rappaport knows that Nico Collins isn't playing to the point where he has to change his tweet, then I guarantee Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn know that he's not playing. It was disrespectful to the fans to do this with Nico Collins for the minutia of a chance of gamesmanship that they had with the Detroit Lions. This is pathetic.
Disrespectful to the fans? Like, really?
Yes. Because fans spent 2 days thinking Nico Collins was going to play on Sunday Night Football, and then 90 minutes before kickoff, he's not playing.
I still think they're resting the division. That's just me. And
then that's a bad way to operate.
Jerome there said, you're not giving away games. You still should have won the game without Nico Collins. You still should have won the game without him. You're not giving away the games. It's all good, man. The division champs. They're the BOB. They're the BOB. They're the division champs. D'Amico does not care about offense, and that's unfortunate. But I will say this, and this is the thing. This is the thing that pisses me off more, Cody. They are dumb when it comes to offense. That's a problem. And the problem is, it would almost be easier to grasp if D'Amico Ryans weren't so awesome on defense. Like, you have a lot of coaches who are offensive coaches. Their offense sucks. Their defense sucks. They're a disaster. They suck. They're not. The defense, it doesn't matter who's in or out. They're going to ball out. Will Anderson out? Okay, let's just go battle with the Lions. Your entire linebacking core, all right, let's go out there and put together a good effort. Corners, half your secondary, let's go out there and put out a good game plan. They're able to do that. Make the right decisions. Get rid of certain guys, bring them in, sign them, get the most of them, get them off the street, draft them. Let's figure it out. Offensively, let's look at them. You already mentioned the offensive line and the fact that they don't have the right guys. Then they don't play the right guys when it's clear they shouldn't play the right guys. Then they don't adjust accordingly. Then they cut guys like Noah Brown, who probably could help them if you look at the way that these wide receivers perform when Nico Collins is out, and they don't handle that. That's the problem. D'Amico Ryans right now, I know that he's a hero here. I know that D'Amico Ryans is a good coach. I think we know that, but the way in which he allows this offense to go and the way in which he defends this offense, he's no better than like a Buddy Ryan, who's just a meathead, hardo, defensive-minded head coach that doesn't have a clue about offense. Like, that's what D'Amico Ryans is functioning like right now. And that's the frustrating thing. I don't give a damn if Nico Collins rests or not. Like, I don't care about that. I'm actually fine with it, because the reality of the situation is this team has no chance to be a contender. Like, the way that they, when you're that incompetent on offense and you're that dependent on one player or whatever, like they don't have a chance. So if you, unless you just believe that the Texans are going to compete with Buffalo or compete with Pittsburgh and get that 2 seed, that's not happening. So you might as well just adjust based on what the division is and what's going on with the division, and just hope that maybe you're fully healthy and ready to go when the playoffs come around. Cause that's the reality of what they are. So I don't have a problem with them functioning with reality, but D'Amico Ryans is incompetent right now when it comes to overseeing his offense. And that's the real problem. That's certainly the biggest problem.
That's certainly the most frustrating thing about him being the head coach is the offense gets, they get breaks that, as I think you've put it astutely, the defense would not be getting these type of breaks if they were having these issues. You know,
they wouldn't.
I think back to, to what happened in Minnesota, where, things didn't look good against the Vikings, and, Sam Darnold was really solid in that one. And they had some bad matchups here and there, and they came out the next week and, played with their hair on fire and had a solid performance against the Jaguars defensively. And the offense hasn't had that bounce back, get back moment. And look, the guy that coaches the defense, really good at coaching defense. Guy that coaches the offense, not really good at coaching the offense.
Big Steve says this defense has played good enough to win every single game this year, including the Vikings, 14 in the first half with nothing but punts from the offense. Yeah, and that's why I don't see how D'Amico Ryans can't get more pissed about this, because his defensive efforts have been wasted. Like, this defense keeps you in games. It keeps you in games, and they haven't done it. Stroud has 50 times 3rd and 10 runs this season. Insane. What does that mean?
50x 3rd and runs this season. 3rd and 10 runs. Is he saying that's how many 3rd and 10 opportunities he's faced this year? That's kind of what I'm thinking he's saying. KJM, clarify that.
I guess. Let's hear from Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon spoke. Last time we played Joe Mixon audio didn't go as well. I think this will be fine. Let me know how this sounds. Here's Joe Mixon. This is courtesy of Aaron Wilson. Joe Mixon talking after the game.
It's very, very disappointing that we finished the way that we did. Had many opportunities and just didn't take advantage of them.
What's D'Amico's message to you guys?
I'm going to keep that in the building. I'm going to keep that between coaches, players, and leave it at that.
How do you guys improve and kind of finish from behind?
Yeah, obviously, it's a tough one. Those games like that, no one's hurt. But, at the end of the day, if that's the NFL's best team, I think we'll be all right. But I definitely feel like, come back to work, own your work, lock in to the details, and, just get ready for the next week. We're at that pivotal point, and we just got to look ourselves in the mirror, keep our heads up high, no matter what nobody's talking about, and we gotta be better.
So they're known as a stout defense. What made it particularly tough sledding to get the traction you normally get in the running game?
Yeah, man. It was a stout front, bro. I had my old teammate over there, and that was a certified run stuffer. And then also, 54, he's a monster as well. But they came out, they was playing physical. It was a physical football game, both sides. And I felt like just when it come down to it, the little miscues and mistakes, that's what killed us. Because, we was real close, bro. I felt like at the end of the day, when it come down to it, I got to take initiative, myself, and it started with me. I got to play better for my team. I got to be better for the team, and I will.
Joe, it's easy to focus on the negative, the loss right now.
Yeah.
What can you miss?
I mean, at the end of the day, that's a playoff atmosphere that we just went through. When it come down to it, I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I've been on the winning side. I've also been on the losing side. Today was just unfortunate. I was on the losing side. But when it come down to it, that's what we're going to get. That's what we're going to see. And we got to put our best foot forward, going forward. And I honestly feel like we got all the guys in this locker room to be able to be what we want at the end of the year, which I highly feel like we will. It's that point in the middle of the season where, things happen and, it's no excuse. That's a game that we should have had. We did have, and, obviously it slipped. But, it ain't going to get no easier. And I'm going to take it all upon myself to make sure our guys, is ready. You know what I'm saying? That we finish these games. We got to stop playing to lose. We got to stop playing to not lose. You know what I'm saying? And go play to win.
Ooh, okay.
So I just feel like we got to just take initiative, own our work, and look each other in the mirror. It is what it is.
I know you guys have all been big fans of John Mechie. What was it like to see him score his first touchdown?
Yeah, Mech, I thought he had a hell of a game. He gave us a big spark when we needed it, and I thought that he did a great job today. And shouts out to Mech. He blocked his ass off. He ran hell of a routes, and he stepped up in a big way when we needed him. We just obviously at different positions, we needed that same thing, and as a collective group, we just fell short, and that's just what it was.
You've expressed a lot of confidence about this group quite a few times.
No doubt.
Do you think everybody else in here feels the same way about what you
Oh
are?
yeah, no, man. Listen, we're not gonna flinch. I promise you that we're not gonna flinch. We're not going nowhere. When it comes down to it, we know what team that we are. We know what we're capable of, and when it comes down to it, like I said, we just gotta finish. We gotta play better. When it matters, all the marbles on the table, we gotta go win. We gotta go execute, and that's the name of the game. 4 quarters, 60 minutes, any given Sunday, man. But like I said, listen, I'm the most confident dude in the world. But when it comes down to this team, like I said, I done been in a special locker room, man. Like I said, bro, we got it here. Trust me, we got it here. Just like I said, it's gonna take this one sting. I'm gonna be real, it do. I mean, when it come down to it, it left a lot of people speechless. We let our fans down, we let our brothers down.
Jeez.
You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. But we got to bounce back and get ready, for another primetime game. We got to put it on tape, and I got the utmost confidence in our guys that we're going to bounce back and we're going to put it together.
Damn, Joe. Now
Mm-hmm.
that's what a leader sounds like. It does seem like, that is the mindset. That's the guy that you got to go to. You got to love hearing from Joe Mixon. By the way, what Larry Tunsil have to say?
I gave you what Larry Tunsil had to say with my silence.
What Titus say?
Decline to talk.
Petrie?
Decline to talk.
Okay. Just checking, man. I don't know. I didn't know. Yeah. All right. That's the mindset you want right there. That's a guy who takes being a captain serious. And that is the mindset that the squad's going to need. And he just straight up said we got to quit playing not to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you connect that kind of to what goes on in the second half and the fact that you haven't scored a touchdown in over a month or whatever it is in the second half.
It was made very clear in Jonathan Alexander's story this week that everybody on the offense got called out, including Bobby Slowick. And I have to imagine it's a little embarrassing to have that meeting that they had this week, have it get so much conversation associated with it, and then come out there and just throw up all over themselves in the second half with the offense. Like, that has to be an embarrassing element for this offense.
No, it's terrible. That is, when you put it out there like that and it gets all the attention that it got, and then you go out there and you put that out there, that's a bad look. So we'll see what happens. What are we making of that Titus strip sack? A lot of people are talking about this. Like, what was going on with that?
I can't explain what Titus Howard's plan was. I mean,
I mean,
like
dude.
if that ball is not recovered, the Lions get the ball at the Houston 35, and instead of their own, after Townsend punted, they started the ensuing drive on their own 17, and their offense was humming.
What's going on with the offensive line, by the way? And I'm
what do you mean?
I'm pulling back the curtain. I'm just going to do it. I'm just pulling back the curtain. I'm just asking. Why is it that whenever these guys win on all of the videos, we see Titus Howard front and center, and Titus Howard is front and center, and he's on all these videos, and it's like over the top and stuff. And like Titus is the go-to. And why is it that this stuff keeps coming out about, well, they were going to start this guy, but they didn't start that guy, and they ended up starting this guy last week, and there's some sort of offensive line shuffle. Like what's going on there? I'm just asking. Like there's
how is there a leak on the offensive line?
I'm just asking. And we never hear these guys speak. We never hear them held accountable. It almost feels like, I don't know this, I'm in there enough to see, but it almost feels like there's like some sort of trading going where it's like, hey, man, you lost, I won't talk to you. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, yeah, I'll tell you this. Because there's something going on there. Because it's damn sure not Caserio. It's damn sure not D'Amico. But whenever these guys win, it's like they're getting glorified. And then all of a sudden, like we know like that they're like, and shout out to Aaron for getting it, but we know that there's an offensive line change, and we know that, and then all of a sudden, like when there's not an offensive line change, they somehow know they thought about it. And I wouldn't care if these guys like perform like Joe Mixon, but I mean, these guys go out there and they wet the bed consistently. They're the weakness of the team. They're one of the big reasons why the team hasn't been what it is. And then you have just all this information about them being thrown out there. I find it very, very strange, especially when you have the head coach going up there defending them so much. Like I just don't think he would want that much stuff out. So it just seems like it seems really weird to me as someone who does this for a living, consumes this much information, that there's that much information about the O-line that performs this poorly. It's weird to me. I'm sorry. It's strange.
It is strange. And
then yesterday, did you see DJ say that Titus wasn't trying to strip a ball?
Not good. Not good.
Twice.
Not good.
Stoots, how upset was D'Amico in post game?
He wasn't pleased. I mean, he was not happy.
KJM, nobody has to deal with third and long more often than CJ Stroud. Most plays run. Yeah, they just basically put him in third down situations, like not throwing on second down yesterday before a 2-minute warning. I'm going to beat that to death because that drove me nuts. MHW Nation.
Thank you for the clarifying super chat, by the way, KJM.
Yeah, you're the man. McDermott's offense is a lot better than D'Amico's, and especially his also defense.
Wonder what McDermott did last year to make the offense better.
He made a change.
Yeah, he fired a guy.
Yeah, he fired Ken Dorsey, and they went with Joe Brady, and it completely arrived. Let's just be honest, too. Let's just be real. His quarterback's also a lot better. Correct. Sorry. I mean, I'm sorry. Like there was a moment this year where I was like, CJ Stroud is trying to get into the upper tier. And I was with Wade Smith and Travis Johnson, and they were like, he's already there. No, he's not. Like, he's not there yet. Like, you got to have like more than 1 year. But like, yeah, I get that. But Josh Allen's a lot better than CJ Stroud right now. It's not close. He didn't have Amari Cooper.
He hasn't
had a number, like we talk about Nico Collins. They haven't had a number one wide receiver all year. They traded Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, they had last year they had year 6, and this year they have year 7 Josh Allen. And if they had year 2 Josh Allen, it wouldn't look good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No. I'm just saying, like, I'm saying as we sit right now, like, I get that the McDermott thing is true. McDermott's also further along as a head coach than D'Amico. But
correct.
They've had to get rid of players. They've had to adjust. And you have the Josh Allen, like the floor with Josh Allen is high. The division's ass too. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But he's much further along than where CJ is. We can be honest about that, right?
And I know I mentioned the Bills firing their offensive coordinator and things getting better. That's not going to happen for the Texans in season. That's not happening this year.
Well, I don't think there's any heat yet. I think it's still the honeymoon, I think, is over with D'Amico, but I don't think there's any heat where, like McDermott, it was basically bleep or get off the pot last year. Like however long he's been there is basically like, hey, you got to do something. There's no heat for D'Amico. And that's what's troubling. And this goes back to what I said 2 weeks ago. Like, I just don't think he lets this crap happen with his defense.
This is perhaps an unfair question, but I want to ask it anyway. Would he treat Cliff Kingsbury this way?
What do you mean? This is fair. He was in the running for the deal and he's doing his thing. Like, what do you mean?
Would he treat? Well, I'm just saying. I mean, he and Bobby Slowick go way back. They came in San Francisco.
Oh, you think he's being soft on Bobby because he knows him?
Yeah.
Like, what would you want him to do? Get rid of him?
Oh, I'm not saying get rid of him, but I mean he's been over backwards to defend pieces of this offense before. And then he has to go in there in post game and be like, yeah, not good enough. Yeah, we can't score in the second half. Yeah, we can't block well. Yeah, we the goal is to complete the pass. Like, would he treat Cliff Kingsbury this way? Is a question that it's one of those unanswerable questions, but
I definitely think there's like a lower standard. I think there's a lower standard on the offense. I don't know if it's a Slowick thing. I don't know if it's a defensive minded coach thing, but there's definitely a lower standard. Like, there's a curve. Like, the
offense was so bad. The running back held a players only meeting while they have 6 wins and they're going to cruise to an AFC South championship. That's how the players felt about this team.
Yeah. And you hear D'Amico, like, everything's basically graded on a curve. Like, Kenyon Green, look at the good plays. Okay. There's a narrative that we're not a good that we're not a good team. Like, where's that coming from? Where are you hearing that? Like, it's an interesting thing. And the other thing is that this kind of ended D'Amico had a streak going that I think needed to be respected, where after terrible performances, he bounced back and won. I think he was unbeaten in that. Like, really, if you look at the brief history of D'Amico Ryans, like, after poor performances, he bounced back and gets dubs. That streak's over after yesterday, and it's not because of the defense, it's because of the offense. So that, I don't know if it's soothing. I think it's just acknowledged the overall confidence that D'Amico has when he goes into the press room after bad performances. It's dead. It died yesterday. It just completely got taken away.
I mean, they've lost 3 of their last 4. The game that they won was against a horrific team. The Colts are terrible right now. And within that losing 3 of their last 4, even when they got the victory, they went out the next week and were way worse at one of the things that had to get better on offense, which was pass blocking. Like, it's, the whole bounce back from bad performance. Like, I'll believe that's coming when I see it. Because that's gone.
Zach says, put Titus on the D-line.
You got more strip sacks than some of the defensive linemen.
You got a good D-line. Don't need Titus Howard out there at all.
Mario Edwards coming back next week. That'd be good.
The Nico Collins excuse. How much does Nico Collins make this better? Obviously, he makes it better. But where are we at with the Nico Collins excuse, where Nico Collins comes back? Obviously, the offense is going to be better. They're probably going to score a second half touchdown. The blocking is probably going to look better. The passing is going to look better. And the ship could be righted. Here's the thing, though. the dependency on players is not something that you want in a system, especially if it's so significant that means that the offense looks the way it has. Like, because you're going to have to deal with being without guys. There are some teams that have to function without their quarterback, without their running back, without their Lions didn't have their left tackle yesterday. They didn't have the defensive player of the year, and they were still able to function. D'Amico's defense didn't have Will Anderson. They were still able to function. Good coach teams, good systems, they're not going to be this dependent on one non-quarterback. So the Nico Collins excuse is there. Like, it's acknowledged that obviously you're a much better team when you have one of the best performing receivers in the NFL on your team. But I don't think it's like a wipe away from the crap that we've been watching from Bobby Slowick and what he's put out there the last few weeks. So I acknowledge the excuse. I acknowledge how much better it's going to look when he gets back on the field. But I don't think it's something that you can just point to and say, well, we didn't have Nico Collins. We didn't have Nico Collins. It's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills didn't have Amari Cooper and Keon Coleman. They put up 30 points yesterday. I mean, it's just, you know who didn't score in the second half yesterday? I was looking at this. I went through and looked at the NFL scoreboard. You know who didn't score in the second half yesterday?
Dallas.
The Bears, the Cowboys led by Cooper Rush, the Jets falling apart at the seams, the Jaguars led by Mac Jones, the Broncos led by Bo Nix.
Against the Chiefs.
Against the Chiefs, sure.
Yeah.
But, I mean, well, hell, the Texans played the Lions. The Lions are good. Like,
No, I know. I'm just saying.
I'm saying that
the Texans is the worst.
Yeah, but think about the Bears didn't score against the Patriots. Like, yeah, okay, that's really bad. Like you look at the teams that couldn't score in the second half yesterday. Couldn't put any 3 points might have been enough to win this football game. They scored 0. And yeah, Nico Collins is going to make things better. It shouldn't be dependent on one guy. They should be able to operate. That's supposed to be the beauty of the Shanahan tree, is you're never dependent on one guy.
I have a question.
Fire away.
Let's get to the super first. I gotta get this question. I gotta present this. And don't get mad. I'm being serious. Gustavo, shout out to the Gustavo. Do y'all feel any QB wins this game for us? Like that. So is CJ Stroud that bad to where any QB could win the game for us? I don't know.
Did CJ have a good game yesterday?
No.
In the first half, it was fine. In the second half, he wasn't good enough. He said the exact same thing.
Take the blame. Why do you think CJ holds the ball so long? Don't know.
He's not trusting what he sees. He's not getting rid of the ball with confidence like he did last year. That's something that Gerard Johnson and CJ have to fix.
All right. Are you ready for the question? I don't want you to get mad.
Are you going to try to piss me off?
No, I really want to know the answer to this question, and I'd need you to tell me.
Don't piss me off.
Can I ask a question? Yes or no? I'll never mind. I don't want to.
You get mad at me when I ask that. Ask the question.
Nah, it's cool. It's cool.
No, see, now you're doing a disservice to the audience. Don't disserve the audience.
Did CJ have fun?
Fuck no. He went up to the podium like the kid that didn't get invited to the birthday party, and he was the only kid in class that didn't get invited to the birthday party. Yeah, I heard about the party. I heard it was good. I heard they had cupcakes. Yeah. No, I don't know why I didn't get invited to the party. CJ had fun. You can't say the solution to the offense is fun, and then you miss Tank Dell and throw an interception to that. Carlton Davis sucks. You can't say the solution's fun and then do that.
What wasn't that really a weird like solution? If we're being honest, like I know we love CJ and I think CJ's the man, but wasn't that kind of like and this is hindsight. Like I'm not gonna sit here and do hindsight all the time. Again, I would have taken it to the house at the end of the first half. I'm a dumbass there. That's what I would have done. So I try not to deal in hindsight. But let's use hindsight in this situation. And let's just go back to where we were. Brother, the theme of the press conference was, I need to have more fun.
Well,
I mean, like, should that not have been like more of a
we're not
eye opener than it was? Because how is he supposed to have fun with this offensive line, this play calling, no Nico Collins? That was kind of a weird thing altogether.
So we kind of did talk about this, and this isn't a hindsight conversation. We kind of did talk about this because the next day, the thought was, okay, well, if CJ Stroud says that's what the solution is, like, let's see him be an elite quarterback and make that the solution. Let's see him hit the plays where he can hit the pose after he hits a big play. Like, let's see it. If that's the solution, go out there, be a unique talent, and make that the solution. He wasn't. He didn't do it.
So what now? Like, what now?
I mean, maybe they got to have a pizza party. Maybe they got to have pizza parties during offensive meetings. You think that's fun? Yeah.
Avenue Central says the fun comment from CJ was a cry for help. Like, it was like we should have read more into it. It was a cry for help.
Well, I can't imagine what the conversation is going to be this week because he didn't get enough help.
So Nico comes back Monday night, right? Is that?
Well, God, if he doesn't, this is a joke. If he doesn't, this is a joke.
The Colts go to the Jets. So what if the Colts lose to the Jets?
I don't give a damn what the Colts do. I don't give a damn what happens to the other three teams in the AFC South. Nico Collins is on the roster. He should practice and play. If he's still on IR, I wouldn't have that comment. I wouldn't have that. But they chose to practice him, open the practice window, and then a day later, after a Friday practice that is a glorified walkthrough, they decided to activate him to the active roster.
Common Sense 200. Why were timeouts called on the final Lions drive? To try to save some time if they didn't get the third down and try to score, I would think.
I have a question about that final Lions drive because the Lions have the ball right before they get to midfield, or right after midfield. Like they got a kicker that, seems like a pretty solid kicker, but he ain't making a 60-plus yarder. Okay.
I don't know, man. I didn't think he'd make the 58.
Well, he snuck the 58 in, which makes me think he ain't making a 60-pluser. Here's my question, Landry, and this is a question about the defense, and this is one of the things that I've been critical of over the course of the season with this defense. How come on 3rd and 6 in a gotta-have-it moment for the Detroit Lions, Azeez Al-Shire ends up defending Amon-Ra St. Brown? How does that happen? Why can't Derek Stingley go play defense on the best wide receiver of the opposing team in a critical situation? I understand they don't travel cornerbacks.
Was he the best wide receiver yesterday?
Who are they going to on a gotta have it?
I get what you're saying, but wasn't Jamison better yesterday? They got two. I know we don't. It's hard for us to believe you can have multiples. Like they got a lot of weapons, bro.
I mean, Amon-Ra finished with more yards and a touchdown. And Jamison Williams got 17 yards on a 3rd and 16, but I don't know why Derek Stingley can't be on the best wide receiver of the opposing team in a key moment. I don't understand that.
Well, here's the thing. I think that they just actually have an offensive coordinator that knows how to seek out those matchups. like, and figure some stuff out. I'm sure there's probably some time where Bobby Slowick could take advantage of that, where Tank Dell ends up with a safety on him or something like that. Like, I think good offensive coordinators find ways to take advantage of that. And I just don't. I think that the Lions have a really, really, really good offensive coordinator, and the Texans don't. The moment where I kind of was like, oh shit, this might not go well. And I actually tweeted it in the moment. That's when I put together the Butterbean versus Floyd Mayweather tweet, was when I saw Ben Johnson. When I saw Ben Johnson put together that screen to Gibbs when it was like 3rd down, and they just completely dissected it and moved the chains with Gibbs. I was like, okay, he sees something. He's figuring something out. So I just think they have an offensive coordinator that's able to go the distance. Look at Bobby right there, man. Look at those gloves. He's struggling, man. Look at that. Look at Ben Johnson. That's what happens when you go 15, man. It's Bobby. Got to knock him out early. Oh, God. You got to laugh to stop from crying.
Yep.
Chase Matthews, is Cody having fun?
Yeah, I mean, this is fun. Yeah. This is fun.
Nathan Palmer, they should bring Kubiak back as a consultant.
Stop. We've got to stop. Gary Kubiak's done coaching. We've got to stop. We also have to stop romanticizing the Kubiak era.
Oh, shots fired. That's a friend of this show, man. He's been on this podcast twice.
Okay, we have to stop romanticizing the Gary Kubiak era.
Okay, what? It is funny because I love Gary. And Gary's greatness, Gary got to display his greatness when he left here. Like, it was already pretty good, like kind of unappreciated, but he joined forces and won his Super Bowl when he left here. But it is funny how the Texans are the only franchise, one of 3, I think, that hasn't been to a conference championship game since the organization started. They have a reputation for coming up short on the big stage, yet the mediocrity at its peak is like so glorified with Kubiak. It's a lot, dude. You hear Kubiak, you want to know some of the names that I heard yesterday for offensive coordinator?
Oh, God.
In the post-game show?
Fire away. I want to hear these names.
All right, one of them was Gerard Johnson, obviously.
Sure. Who's never called an offense at the NFL level before. Never coordinated an offense.
I don't think he's coordinated an offense at all.
Yeah.
John Gruden.
Jesus. Gruden would be super entertaining,
dude.
Though.
This offensive line can't even decide a basic stunt. You think they're going to remember all that terminology and what Gruden's saying?
Gruden being mean to Chris Sims is one of my favorite clips ever.
All right.
Because Sims can't figure it out. That's fun. Gruden is incredible on social media, too.
There was one more.
Who?
Brian Dable. If he gets fired with the Giants.
I would hire Brian Dable to be the offensive coordinator if the Giants fire him.
But he doesn't. Are we going to have to run his system now? We changing systems? We going back to the old ways?
Well, I like Dable.
So you go back to the old ways?
Brian Dable's a more competent offensive coordinator than and offensive mind than Bill O'Brien was.
Okay, so but we're going back to the OB system.
I want to go to something that wins football games and scores points in the second half.
So do you think that they should look into the possibility of not being married to this system?
Absolutely, they should.
Okay. Like you know who I would like? You want a realistic offensive coordinator name?
Who?
I think give Mike LaFleur another chance, dude, with a good quarterback.
Oh, piss off.
What do you mean? That was the Jets. He had Zach Wilson. I think he's under the tree. They like him. Why not Mike LaFleur? If they're married to this system, how about you want to bring in Kubiak's son?
No, I don't want Clint. How's that going? How's New Orleans going?
Sports Talk with D. They beat the Falcons yesterday. Serious question, where is Jeff Okudah?
Who cares? What's Jeff Okudah going to do?
Well, he's probably going to start Monday against the Cowboys, if we're being honest. Right?
You're right.
CJ called Slowick out last night about first and second downs. I guess the second down before a 2-minute warning. I promise this is the last time I'll mention it. That just kind of upsets me. Someone says Eric Bieniemy for what? To do what? No, thank you.
Okay, who said that? Who said Eric Bieniemy?
Heisenberg.
Don't Google. Tell me where Eric Bieniemy works right now. Don't Google. Tell me where he works right now.
Chiefs have been lost since they lost Eric Bieniemy. How are they functioning? Yeah, no thanks on that. That was a wild one. How do we feel about the O-line shuffle yesterday? We saw the shuffle. Aaron Wilson had the information before. Shout out to him. How do we feel about this offensive line shuffle with Jared Patterson at center and Juice Scruggs at left guard? Because I have a thought.
Please.
I think Juice Scruggs might stink.
He's not good.
Yeah, he's kind of gotten a free pass, but I like
he's bad.
If it has to be one or the other, and it has to be that you're either good at pass blocking or run blocking, I'll take the pass blocking because I think Mixon can improve the run blocking. Now, Detroit, it's kind of hard because they are a good run defense. So I'm fine with this offensive line as compared to having Kenyon Green on it. But I'm starting to wonder, what if they put Kendrick Green instead of Juice Scruggs? Could it get even better? Maybe we just need to look at it against a team that's not the Lions and see what happens. But I do wonder, like, is Juice Scruggs a really good offensive lineman or not? Because he's had a terrible season. And we never really bring him up, in part because Kenyon was out there.
He's not good. And the Texans traded up for him in the second round. Most draft people believe at the time he was a fourth rounder and only a center. He wasn't good at left guard last year. He wasn't good at left guard. He's marginally better than what Kenyon Green was putting out there this year at left guard. Like, he wasn't good at left guard last year. Patterson's a better football player than him. You got to play Patterson more than Scruggs. If you're thinking about putting Scruggs in, just put Patterson in that spot. And I don't know. I don't know what Kendrick Green has ever done to this team to not get the opportunities and to not get the shot here. And I guess because Juice Scruggs was a second-round pick, they feel like they have to keep figuring this thing out.
You really think that this offensive line is functioning to justify draft picks?
But Landry, coaches give guys opportunity after opportunity time and time again because of where they were drafted. That's what I'm saying, is they've got to get rid of this. They've got to play the best guys. We hear all the time, play the best guys.
That's what they're doing, though. That's what I'm asking. You think that's what they're doing?
Yes. That's the only reason he's in there, because he's not a good football player right now. He was not good at center. He was bad at left guard yesterday. He should not be playing on this offensive line. He is now the problem.
I thought that, and I'm not an offensive line film guy. I'm not I don't pretend to be. I watch every snap of Texans football, like, as close as anyone, and we covered the thing. I thought that Kendrick Green put out a pretty decent performance against the Jets, given the circumstances. I know he allowed a sack. I know there was a little bit of a whiff, but I thought that he did a decent job in the brief time, in the brief moments that he was out there. I thought he was okay.
I agree with you.
And then you factor in the Steelers game last year. I thought he was really good based on what we expected. They were making fun of him. They were throwing parties in Pittsburgh. They were wearing their pajama pants to the party. They were doing their damn thing.
Yes. And look, Pro Football Focus is not the gospel. It's a starting point for a conversation. But Kendrick Green's 3 games started last year. His performance via Pro Football Focus was better than anything Scruggs or Kenyon Green has put together in the NFL.
Yeah,
but they won't give him a week of practice at left guard to see if it works. Why is he on the team if you won't play him? Shaq's really bad too. They have a huge issue at guard. They have no answers at guards. Shaq's really bad. Juice Scruggs is really bad. They should play Kendrick Green at one of those spots. I would be in favor of seeing Nick Broker at right guard. They gotta have a reason to keep him around.
Nick Broker.
Yeah.
Come on.
Shaq's the worst offensive lineman on the team. You want to keep running him out there?
Nick Broker?
Landry, they've got to do something. It's not good enough at guard. Play Kendrick and Nick Broker and see if it works. If it doesn't, put Shaq back in.
Just keep shuffling the line. I'm not opposed to that.
Yes.
I'm not opposed to that.
The quarterback pressure percentage against the Jets was 45.7. They allowed 8 sacks. The quarterback pressure percentage against a far less talented defensive line of the Detroit Lions was 42.1%. They allowed 16 quarterback pressures and 4 sacks. Like, yes, it got marginally better, but they didn't solve any issues with the offensive line shuffle. And then they couldn't run block. They could not move bodies.
Do you have any other thoughts before we go up 45? Any other thoughts about this game? Anything else? Because my basic thought is this. Bobby Slowick in the second half, he's overthinking stuff. There's just complete madness. That's thought one. Thought two, the offensive line, as bad as it is, it was even better. So do with that what you will. It's terrible. Thought three, if everyone on this team had the mindset of Joe Mixon, then we would be in a much better place. And thought four, with all that said, the division is so bad, they might actually clinch the division in 3 weeks. And oh, by the way, they better win 2 of the next 3 games. Worst case scenario, I still think they could end up winning the division, but it would make that murderer's row a lot lighter and allow them to
coast to a division championship so they can get their ass kicked in the second round of the playoffs. Yeah, that's what it'll allow them to do.
Maybe first, if we're being honest. Maybe first.
If you don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers would kick the crap out of this team right now, and I was disrespectful to the Steelers last week when I had this conversation. I'm wrong.
The Steelers would beat your ass. They would.
You know what they do? They throw the ball to Mike Williams, who they traded for this week.
Dude, they have a way better offensive coordinator than you, and their defense lines up with what D'Amico does. They are way better than you.
Did you see that George Pickens touchdown yesterday? Freaky catch. He's really
good. They're starting to get some stuff out of old George Pickens. He's doing his thing. Yeah, I don't know what to go there. Then we're going up 45 to Dallas. How do you feel about that one?
I mean, they should kick the crap out of this Cowboys team.
Trey Lance, though, it's gonna be the Trey Lance show. I think.
I don't give a damn if it's Trey Lance. This isn't FCS.
Yeah, the Texans are actually a 7.5-point favorite against the Cows.
Oh, I'll take the Cows to cover.
Yeah, 7.5. CeeDee Lamb versus Derek Stingley will be a fun matchup to look at. Micah Parsons versus CJ. You know, they have their back and forth and their crap.
Micah Parsons has got to be, licking his chops for this matchup.
Against Tunsil or Howard or both or
everybody. I mean, he's got to see Shaq Mason, and he's got to be like, "Yep, that guy's not blocking me."
Yeah, they move him around. 97.9 H-Town fan opinion on why opposing fan bases constantly overtake our stadium. Lions do that with a lot of teams, to be honest with you. I don't know what's the reason? I don't know. It happens in Dallas too. It happens in LA. I don't know. I just think it happens in certain like destinations where people want to go visit.
When you want to get out of Detroit too.
Wow, shots fired. Shout out to Detroit. We already saw with Kenyon Green, players are getting more chances based off where they're picked. Yeah, I mean, that's the only way.
There was no competition for Juice Scruggs or Kenyon Green this offseason.
Well, there wasn't for Kamari Lassiter either.
Oh, no, that's not true.
What do you mean?
He started inside on his first day, and he was so good they put him outside right away.
Come on. Sports Talk with D. Don't be smart, Cody. Who came in for Lassiter?
Kadar Holman came in for Lassiter. But here's the thing, Landry, to expand on your Lassiter point, he got the opportunity and he was good. Juice and Kenyon were bad in training camp.
No, I know. I'm just
Mario Edwards looked like Aaron Donald out there against those guys.
No, I know. I get it. Like there's this offensive line, and I just find it funny too, where and I don't pretend to know these things. I don't pretend to really like closely follow these things. Again, like I'm not an offensive line expert. I don't pretend to be, but I hear this like notion. Laramie Tunsil is one of the best left tackles in the league, and I'm like, all right, give me your top 5. Like I don't like it's like you could say like so and so is one of the 5 best quarterbacks, so and so is one of the best 5 wide receivers, running backs, whatever. But like when I hear that, I just my question is, all right, let me get the top 5 list. You can't do that. Like the most people that are saying that, you're not giving me 5 tackles. Like Laramie Tunsil, he's fine. I mean, but like, dude, do you feel like
the Lions have 2 guys better than him?
I don't think that anyone is bulletproof from criticism on this offensive line. I don't think there's any diamond in the rough with this offensive line. I mean, I think he's clearly your best guy. I think clearly that Blake Fisher's not ready to fill that void, but I don't think that there's like some sort of like elite offensive lineman on this squad. And the other thing is, it just seems like whether like some of these guys, there's like you hear D'Amico talk about the mix-in factor.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of the Nico factor where the team just kind of gravitates and they feed off your energy. Laramie Tunsil's the captain of the offensive line. Like, let's just be serious. He's the captain of this offensive line. He takes there doesn't seem to be a ton of pride. Like you don't see him going up there and speaking. You don't see like when they have bad performances, you have the quotes coming out about blaming the refs. There's, I thought the best quote of the year from the offensive line was where Titus Howard said, if we stop playing like crap, basically they'll stop talking about us, which I think he was right. Although he did follow it up with trying to strip his own quarterback in a game, but there doesn't seem to be like that mix in energy. And it just doesn't seem to be like anything good about this offensive line. I mean, there's nothing.
Shaq Mason had his hands on the guy and then just stopped touching him like it was a hot stove, and that guy sacked CJ Stroud.
One time there were a couple times where he put his hands up to not get called for holding. He'd go like that. Let him go. But yeah, I don't know. Someone says, why is LT a captain? The team voted for it.
Yeah. Team voted for it. Oh, man.
So up 45. And I think if there is one thing about this thing, you should get the dub against the Cows. You should improve to 7-4, 2 division games ahead. Most likely, right now, if you're looking at the lines, the Colts are 3-point underdogs against the Jets. I don't even think we need to look at the Titans and Vikings. The Titans are a 6.5-point dog. The Jags are a 13-point underdog going to Detroit. So God. So if you beat the Cowboys, you get 2 of the worst 5 teams in the NFL, and the Jags and the Titans, and you're 9 wins before the bye. Print out that AFC South hat. Cody will be the first one in line to get that. He'll be popping it, and he will be celebrating.
No, we will find out what we need to know about how this team is constructed for 2024 and where D'Amico Ryans is a head coach and where everybody is on this team. Their charge here with 7 games left in the regular season and a playoff game at home guaranteed. Their charge is to not be the Houston Texans like we have seen for all these years. They cannot go and do the exact same thing that the Texans always do, which is win a playoff game and then go on the road against an elite team in the AFC and lose. Like, that's their charge. Don't be the same old Texans. That's their charge. With 7 games and a guaranteed playoff game here, a home playoff game, by the way, don't be the same old Texans. That's what you have to do if you're this Texans team to make it feel different than it has felt all these other times. It felt different last year because it was wholly and totally unexpected, but the moment you place expectations on the Houston Texans, they go back to where they have always been, which is win a playoff game at home and then go on the road and get beat up because you can't find yourself as one of the top teams in the AFC.
Well, I'll put it this way. You say they can't, they damn sure can. And quite frankly, it looks like that's the direction that they're heading. So, yeah, you say they can't. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Yes, they effing.
And they likely will. If I could literally wager that they win their home playoff game and lose on the road to the whatever team they play, which will probably be Baltimore or Buffalo or Kansas City, if I could wager that exact result is going to happen right now, I would.
Yep. And I don't think that'd be a bad wager. Either way, we'll be all over it, whether they do or they don't. Same old Texans, new Texans, whatever. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk